Welcome to This Week in Missouri Politics. It's Oktoberfest and the Cardinals are back in the playoffs. Everything is right with the world. We're going to talk about politics with Jane Dueker. Welcome back to the show.
How you doing?
And I'm very great.
After
Sunday, how could you? Is there a problem in the world? I wouldn't know it if there
No,
was.
Blues banner, Cardinals in the playoffs. Life is
fine.
not any better.
Gene Evans, the executive director of the Missouri Republican Party. Welcome back to the show.
Good to be here.
Very appropriately dressed.
That's right.
Jane did not get the memo.
I did not get the memo.
Let's talk about something that's going around. It's not a memo, it's a transcript. President Trump in hot water. I guess here's the thing. It looks to me like, do I believe Donald Trump would get on the phone and maybe leverage weapons to a country to embarrass the one person that could beat him? I could maybe see that happening. I don't know that he said any magic words that really get you hung up and would get you really in trouble. And I think a lot of the Democrats, Nancy Pelosi, to me, is one of the, whether you agree with her politics, one of the smartest political operators of our time. She's been very slow to do this. Is this not the greatest thing that could happen to Donald Trump?
It's not terrible. I mean, his approval rating is going up. It's similar to what happened with Bill Clinton.
Sure.
What we know in our polling of suburban women is they want people to get along and they want people to accomplish things. Some things that we've been able to do here in the state, they can't seem to do on the national level, and it's a question of who gets blamed for that. So right now, if they continue to look at Pelosi and blame that and blame her for impeachment hearings, that bodes well for us in the election. The other thing is there are quite a few Democrats who were elected in 2018 in districts that Trump won, right? Mm-hmm. So if they are forced to take a vote on this impeachment, it could be very bad for them. So politically, a lot of this plays into our hands. Do I like it? No. As an American, I'd like to see them get to work and accomplish things. But as a politician, yeah, plus it's going to keep my guy in office for more years, which I think is good for the country.
To me, looking to the future, Democrats seem to be the majority party. They have the majority in Congress. They did get more popular votes. Their candidate for president, a very weak candidate for president, got more actual popular votes. However, it does feel like there's an internal struggle for Democrats between the new kind of socialist wing of the party and maybe the more traditional labor union Democrats, Jefferson County Democrats, the ones that have hung on and haven't become Republicans. And it feels like you're seeing that in Congress. Nancy Pelosi, a stalwart throwback to that, has been very slow to do impeachment. And I'm not sure she doesn't know how to read the mood of the nation.
Well, and I think she will. And so that's why I think where her foot is on the pedal is where it needs to be. So, and the good news is we don't need to rely on a transcript anymore because he just goes on TV and recommits the crime just to make sure that everybody is aware of it. So at this point, it's not a matter of whether he thinks it's right or wrong. I think he knows it's wrong. I think he's itching for a fight. That's what this is. It has nothing to do with the country. It has to do with him trying to get reelected. And, and I guess we'll see if that happens. I think that's going to be largely dependent on who the Democrats put up. I do agree with you that there is definitely, and we saw it in the last election, there's a split between the moderates and the left wing of our party. And that's going to be a challenge that we're going to have to try to overcome. And will our desire to beat Donald Trump, override the split between the moderates and the far left?
It looks to me like time and time again, Donald Trump has a way of taking someone and almost making them insane. I have members of my family that you can't say anything bad about Donald Trump or it's a blow up. And I have other people that I know in my life, if you say anything good about Donald Trump, they're just fit to be tied. What I think Trump has always been very good at doing is taking the media and making people hate the media more than them. He's took certain members of Congress who are very left-wing, far more left-wing than the country, and made them his enemy, which he could win. He probably can't win a popularity contest with many people, but he finds the ones he can win, and he has those contests, and he seems like he's done a good job of it.
Well, but the problem he's going to have is it's the battle for the middle. I mean, everybody knows that the left is in one place. The Trumpsters, that 35%, they're not going anywhere.
You can't change anybody's opinion, can you?
But the middle is where this is all going to be played. So the key is, does this impeachment nonsense, does the Ukraine calling on China now to come into our elections, is that really going to help with the middle of the country? And are they exhausted? And I think Nancy Pelosi's got a pretty good gauge of that. I mean, she took the House back, and I think that's not going to change, and I think we're likely to get the Senate. I think the presidency is going to depend on who we nominate.
So could Donald Trump possibly, I would believe he may have done a blood pact with Satan. If he can get the Democrats to impeach him for something that's not clearly impeachable, if they don't have the clear majority of the country on, and then they nominate Elizabeth Warren, someone who's masqueraded as an Indian and is a socialist, if she's the one he runs against, could he be that lucky?
I think she is going to be the one. I can't help.
Or you think?
I think I don't think it matters. He's going to win. I mean, I'm fairly confident he's going to win. I think that, Biden is done. If he wasn't.
If he's not done, Biden kills him, though, right?
No.
I think Joe Biden could show up to the Jefferson County Fair or to this courthouse square in Independence, and Nicole Galloway could actually be seen with him, right? Mm-hmm. No other Democrat I think she could be seen with.
I mean, it's
if Nicole Galloway came to St. Louis, or if Elizabeth Warren came to St. Louis, would Nicole Galloway be in Atchison County or McDonald County that day?
I don't know. I mean, I
That's
think
as far away as you can get from St. Louis.
Yeah, but I think counting Biden out is a big mistake, because I think this impeachment and him trying to make Joe Biden the victim here could rev up Democrat support that maybe Biden didn't
Jane
otherwise
Dueker,
have.
if a Democrat wants to get rid of Donald Trump, is the move to go call their congressman and demand they impeach Trump, or is to go put up a Biden for president yard sign?
Both.
Really? What do you think? I mean, if Biden does run, Missouri's a red state.
Right.
Maybe not as red as my jacket or your dress, but a red state.
Right.
Biden makes it less red than the rest of the field.
Yeah, but Trump's going to win by double digits here. I mean,
Even if it's Biden?
Absolutely. Our polling shows the president up, and the president's approval rating, even in St. Louis County, St. Louis area, 50%. This is a Democrat county and a Democrat city, and his approval rating is 50%.
I was so glad you were on, because your seat is a special election seat. It's coming November, correct?
November,
First Tuesday.
yes.
Yeah. This is an interesting spot. You won a highly contested race. You had to work very hard, a lot of money spent in an area that you would think, as Republicans could win Eastern Jackson County, as they win Jefferson County, you would think some of that suburban West County St. Louis would be the spot Democrats could pick up seats. You're the special election. It looked to me like the Democrats had a very good chance to win this. Does this impeachment just start revving up Republicans?
Yeah. I mean, the enthusiasm, I think, was all on the Democrat side, sort of like it was a year ago with Kavanaugh. When Kavanaugh came out, I wasn't sure how that was going to play out. People were coming out to talk to me and saying, I need a Hawley sign, I need your sign, I'm voting all Republican, I'm tired of this. And they were just kind of laying low for a while. So it has energized our base. Special elections are about the base, and so the base is going to come out and go after it.
That to me is like an example of, does this impeachment, the actual negative impact of doing an impeachment that maybe the country's not on board with. You could see it in a place like that special election.
It could. And it's still about who gets their voters out, but this does motivate a lot of Republicans to show up. I wouldn't say normally, I don't think House races are that nationalized in general, like they tend to be more locally, state and local politics, but I think when everybody is talking about this. I mean, we were talking about crime quite a bit, which I know we're going to talk about that here, but that's all anybody was talking about in St. Louis for the last 3 weeks, and now everybody's talking about the president and the ridiculous impeachment that, it's an impeachment inquiry. She hasn't even actually started an impeachment process yet. It's an inquiry. So maybe this is the first step for her. I don't know, but it's a lot of semantics, but an impeachment process, there's no committees. Nothing has officially started except talk.
Well, let's talk about something that you can't be on Twitter and not see you tweeting about maybe the biggest issue the state is facing, and that's crime in the city of St. Louis. Jane, you have tweeted many, many tweets. I follow you, but I can't follow them all. Give me the breakdown on what could actually be done to stem these headlines. I mean, children die every week.
It's
a tragedy.
It's horrible, and it's so bad for our region.
What do you do about it?
Well, I think you have to do a multifaceted approach, and I'm not exactly seeing that yet. I mean, I know that there's a group of people who are into this cure violence, and I hope that it starts helping. But the bottom line is the most dangerous people have to be taken off the streets now. You have to have a short-term solution, a medium-term solution, and a long-term solution. The short-term solution has to be to get the most dangerous people off the streets. 10% of the people are committing 90% of the crime,
right.
And they know who they are. They need to go get them. They need to have the resources. I think for the most part they do, and so the problem is we need one to get them off the street, and then we need somebody who will actually prosecute them to keep them in.
But maybe this is just the West Butler County hillbilly in me. But knowing something and being able to prove it and arrest them, there are laws that protect people.
Absolutely, and you know
I
what?
don't trust the government.
Well, but the police, they show up with cases, with proof, with evidence, and if they do that, they should be prosecuted. And so yeah, I mean, but we have to none of the investment in the future. You can talk about education, you can talk about curing violence and teaching people alternative ways to deal with violence.
Right.
That's all well and good, but none of that will work if people are afraid to come out of their house. People won't go downtown. I mean, I am concerned about the playoffs. People don't tell me that people don't think twice about going downtown. They do, or going to North County and going to these areas. And we have got to dispel that. And the only way to do that is to get the most dangerous people off the streets.
I don't know that if this problem was happening in Marble Hill, I don't think anybody would expect the governor to come in. But it is true. The state of Missouri can't be all it can be with the city of St. Louis having this crime problem.
No, and Missouri in general has more crime percentage-wise than the rest of the country. So we're seeing overall crime throughout the country is going down, but not here in Missouri. And in St. Louis City, we already had a bad crime problem. Now we have a drug war going on, and we've got to get these people off the streets. I mean, I'm not opposed to cure violence. I also believe in criminal justice reform. I don't think that throwing every, guy smoking weed in his, basement if somebody needs to be in jail. It's not to that.
And nobody's doing that.
Nobody's doing that, but we aren't prosecuting. I do think something that's been overlooked with the governor's plan, when they talk about having the highway patrol on the highways here, is they say, well, what crimes are being committed? Just having more of a presence, right? Because we all slow down on the highway when we see a
People
cop.
in St. Louis pay taxes too. Shouldn't they have the highway patrol on their highways?
They should have,
else?
yes.
Right.
Yeah, please
And they
do.
haven't
Right.
previously, that's
and
right.
then, even freeing
make
up
sense, right?
freeing up some more police officers, because you don't go in and rob a bank when there's a cop car outside. So having a bigger presence, plus, the governor's trying to step in and help. He's been asked to help here. People have, said we need
Politically
you.
dangerous for the governor, though. I mean, can he really do anything that makes a difference? And when you get involved, can you not just be blamed for it?
Well, I think it takes political courage, and I think he's
true.
shown that. So the governor has said, you can't throw a problem at me that I'm not going to try to help you solve. So they invited him in. First they
And he
blamed him
came.
for it, and then they invited him in, and he showed up.
Evans, you know the governor very well. Something tells me Mike Parson might be the best qualified governor in the history of this state to actually address a crime problem.
Mm-hmm.
But would the people in the city of St. Louis like a Polk County sheriff's solution to crime?
Well, they weren't complaining when he came in,
No.
and nor were the police officers that I represent. And so, they're grateful for any sort of help. They believe that, we are anywhere between 130 to 150 officers down in the city of St.
Right.
Louis. You walk out of a hockey game last night, and you get more than, a quarter, not even a quarter mile away from Enterprise, and you don't see a cop anymore.
Well,
and there are,
There was
tens of thousands
there was
of people
a much
downtown.
maligned, much discussed Better Together project that's no longer active. But I do think when you're getting rolling stop sign tickets written on 10 miles away and you're getting children slaughtered 10 miles to the east, there's an issue there. I mean, and you've met with Sam Page this week. He has actually been in meetings and tried, and Tom Irwin, a large civic figure, tried to get involved.
Right.
Talk about something. I noticed you were in the county executive's office today on something that seems to be pretty bipartisan. Seems to be something that could reach across not just party lines, but across the city-county lines.
With the criminal justice reform, and this was particularly related to women. So a couple of years ago when I was a legislator, I sponsored a bill to ban the shackling of pregnant inmates. And the only way we could get it passed is if we agreed to not hold counties. We asked them to follow the guidelines, but they didn't absolutely have to, but it is being followed in the state. And we have leadership the Department of Corrections that is following this, and she actually supported this. So Sam Page decided to do the same thing here in St. Louis County that we're doing at the state level. He actually took it another step further, which I really appreciate, in providing care for pregnant inmates, prenatal and postnatal care, giving them some privacy if they want to do nursing and all the help that they need, and even counseling if they're experiencing postpartum depression. So, there's a cycle of violence, and this is a piece of the puzzle, right? So this isn't going to cure violence, this isn't going to stop, but this is a big thing. So if you have someone who finds herself in prison and she's pregnant, let's at least give that child a chance. And chances are she's not going to be there forever.
Just like the states are laboratories, sometimes the counties are laboratories
Right.
for public policy. But Jane Dueker, who won the week?
I have to say the St. Louis Blues banner. I was there last night, and I got to tell you, it warmed my heart.
Terrific thing for the city.
It was a terrific thing. The leadership shown. I mean, Coach Berube. He is a leader that people can look up to, and so it was great
great
being
night.
there. And now I'm looking forward to tonight.
Of course. Who won the week?
It's got to be Gussie Faughn.
Oh my God, it's been such a long, never been alive for a Cardinal playoff game.
And he's 3.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, so
That's-
I know
yeah.
his long journey,
His long journey is coming to an
it's
end.
here, and
His
so,
long lifetime nightmare is over.
That's right. That's
so
right.
he won the week.
I would totally agree with that. I can't top it, but I will say Ann Wagner. It's awfully late in the cycle. No one's announced is running against in a very competitive district. I think there's a reason for that. We hope you'll stick around. We're coming up next. We're done talking politics. We're going to talk Cardinal baseball. Eric Schmitt and I are going to talk postseason preview show. Look forward to not only having a good time, but they're going to learn some stuff about baseball after this.
All across Missouri, our new car and truck dealers are building strong local economies. When you buy a car or truck in Missouri, you're helping to support over 20,000 Missouri families who rely on the auto industry for good-paying local jobs. You're also helping fund our communities, schools, first responders, and our roads because dealers generate millions of dollars in tax revenue. Missouri's automobile dealers have been the foundation of our communities for generations and for generations to come. The Missouri Automobile Dealers Association, the heart of Missouri.
At Ameren, Missouri, we know what light can do. It draws people together and chases monsters away. And if you shine it in the right direction, it will light the path for the next generation, showing them what their tomorrow could look like and spotlighting the possibilities that lay in front of them. Investing in our community by lighting the way forward. That's energy at work. Ameren, Missouri.
Welcome back to not an opinion maker panel, but a panel with a lot of opinions. We're going to talk Cardinals postseason baseball. Eric Schmitt, it's been 4 years. I'm so glad we're back doing this.
Our long national nightmare is over.
Let's jump right into talking Cardinal baseball. The regular season MVP, a long regular season. We played all 162 and they mattered. Who was the MVP of the regular season?
So I think the first half, I mean, you really have two different seasons. The first half, in my view, you've got the bullpen. And you've got, if you think about it, if you set up the season in April, they had a good month. I think they were 20-10 in April. May and June, you start to slide. But the starting pitching, especially with Wainwright and even Flaherty, before they kind of got their sea legs underneath them, that bullpen really stepped in. And principally two guys, Gallegos and Gant. John Gant was, in baseball terms, heroic. He came in some of those games, saved some of those games, kept them in the game long enough to be able to recover and sort of sustain what was a pretty mediocre.
It was almost like a relay race because you had Jordan Hicks carried the torch for a while. John Gant came in huge early on. Then they kind of handed it off. Brebbia had a great run. Then you turn it over to Martinez. It looked like there was a bunch of guys that just took the torch as the season went on.
That's right, and it gave them enough time, quite frankly, to get to the All-Star break. And you're 500 at the All-Star break. You've got guys like Goldschmidt who were, not really performing at the level they should have, and then they take off, and then they're, one of the best teams in baseball in the second half. But having that bullpen sort of stabilize things early on in the season, to me, they were the first half MVPs.
Mr. Consistency, I'm going to say Paul DeJong. Paul DeJong was there from the beginning. He had 30 home runs, played a very solid shortstop. The bullpen probably so, but if I had to go one guy, I'm going to go the guy that was consistent pretty much all year right up to the end is Paul DeJong.
Yeah. So I think the next, area we ought to discuss is the manager, Mike Schildt. Comes in, sort of second half of last year, performs well. They have a good August run, and then you roll into this year. And what kind of manager is Mike Schildt going to be for a full season? I had an opportunity to spend a little time with him at spring training, and behind those eyes, he's a very calm guy, but there's a fiery competitiveness behind. But I think what's most impressive about Mike Schildt and why I give him an A is he spent time on the fundamentals. If you think about this team the last few years and missing the playoffs, they weren't fundamentally sound. They didn't run the bases particularly well and weren't very good defenders. This year, this is perhaps the best defensive team the Cardinals have ever fielded. They were the best defensive team in baseball, and their run suppression was great and really has kept them in this race and got them to the division title. So I'm going to give him an A because
Wrong. Mike Schildt deserves an A+. There's not even any question. A German-American manager is what I've been saying for many years will get us back in the playoffs. It's Oktoberfest, A+. He beat the Cubs. He won the division. He turned the city around, and I think I don't know how better you could do. I mean, so far, A+. Maybe if they finish the season, you have to win the World Series, get an A+. But I say, what more do you want? He won a tough division, buried the Cubs. A+. If I had to say it was a Hurricane versus Schildt, Mike Tyson versus Schildt. I mean, what has he not done to get an A+?
Well, the grading system I had originally did not have the plus, so you've convinced me he's an A+.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Let's talk about this roster. The interesting part of this roster jumps off John Gant, who did carry the bullpen for a long time. He's not on this roster. Wong is healthy. He is on the roster. To me, Matt Wieters being healthy matters. And then, interesting, Arozarena over O'Neill. What'd you think of the roster?
I like the roster construction for the playoffs. It's, there's always some, debatable calls, but I think what's most telling is you've got three left-handers in the bullpen. You've got Webb, Cabrera, and Miller. And so I think what that is, you think about the way games are managed now in the playoffs, and really Tony La Russa started this in 2011, where if you get into trouble at all, you have a quick hook and you get somebody in from the bullpen. So having those three lefties in for matchups and depth, I think was a good call, and I think ultimately gives them the depth they need to survive the series.
If it were you, would you bring Tyler O'Neill over Munoz, though? A bat off the bench, you can literally hit a home run 400 feet.
I think, the way they've got this set up now with Carpenter coming off the bench, they've got some pop off the bench. I think Arozarena was a nod to defense and athleticism. I'm a fan of Tyler O'Neill, but I think having Arozarena there gives you some options late in the game.
Whether it's sizzle to him. He's got some sizzle.
He does, and I kind of wish he would got called up before he did to see, because he had a great minor league season. But I like the roster construction, and also don't forget, they have 2 off days. So they have 2 off days in this 5-game series, and so you're able to kind of reset that bullpen also with enough time.
See, interesting how those matchups go.
Yeah, so I think on the matchups, the key matchups in this series are going to come down to the bullpen, right? And so for me, the key matchup is Miller versus anybody he faces. And he really kind of invented this position of the closer really coming in before the 9th. The closer coming in the most high leverage part of that game. And so whether it's Freddie Freeman or Markakis, wherever Schildt chooses to deploy him, which by the way was Schilt's biggest strength, was the way he uses that bullpen. And I think Miller, the matchup, if you watch this series now, whenever Miller comes in, how does he do? That's the key matchup.
I would agree with you, except for the fact I'm going to say Miller will come in early, and that's a whole. But if you're at one guy, if you want to tell me how this series is going to go for the Cardinals, tell me how Marcell Ozuna does against Dallas Keuchel. You have Marcell Ozuna, who's hit lefties very well. He's got power. He's played in this is really the first time he's played on the big stage. He could have 6 to 10 at bats against Dallas Keuchel, hopefully 12. And I think what'll be interesting to see is how does he hit that left-hander, and what does that mean for the rest of that lineup in front of him? Let's talk now about an X factor. Every series has him. There was Mark Lemke back in the day for the Braves. The playoffs are full of different guys that have come up big. Who is the X factor in this series for the Cardinals?
For me, I think you're looking at a guy who in September, and really in the second half, if you look at the advanced metrics, the best wins above replacement for the whole team was Tommy Edman. And so Tommy Edman is starting the series in second base. Tommy Edman has found his way into this lineup because he's a compelling play, not just in the field, but on the bases. But then he has that spark in the lineup. So for me, it's Tommy Edman. If he goes, we go. It's sort of what Dexter Fowler used to say. If he goes, we go. If Tommy Edman is on the base paths, if Tommy Edman is getting hits, if he's starting a rally, then the Cardinals are doing well. So for me, the X factor is Tommy Edman.
Where in the order do you bat that X factor?
I think right now you have him at the top of the lineup. There's no question about it. I would, and then Wong, you kind of see where Wong is, right? Wong you had Fowler and Wong, and that was in Edman. You kind of slide, and that worked pretty well. I think at the beginning of the series, you see how Edman does. You see how Wong is progressing. You got Edman at the top of the lineup, but he provides you again the value of Tommy Edman is the flexibility. I mean, you can have him at third base, you can have him at second base, you can have him in right field if they wanted to give Carpenter a start.
It's interesting. It's not the debate's not whether you start Edman or Carpenter. It's whether you start Fowler or Carpenter or Bader or Carpenter or you definitely keep them, Edman, in the lineup. I have 2 X factors, double X factor. It is a German-American manager in Oktoberfest. I think there's a long precedent for success of Cardinal managers of German-American descent in October. And I'm going to go Wong. Is he healthy? If Colton Wong is healthy, if he's playing well, there's a different energy he brings to that dugout. I think Colton Wong and his health are probably the biggest X factor. As far as, because I think you kind of know what you're going to get from Edman now.
Well, I don't disagree, and let me give you one more X factor. I think you look at this bullpen and this pitching staff against their offense. The Braves are considered by national experts, for whatever that's worth, as a better offensive team. But if you look at the second half, if you look at the park-adjusted runs created, which is essentially kind of levels out where you're playing, all the conditions, in the second half, 100 is average. The Braves are at 100, the Cardinals are at 99. So the second half Cardinals are as good offensively as the Braves. But if you look at the pitching, the Cardinals had the lowest number of ERA all season long, certainly in the second half, I should say. And I think they have a definite advantage on run suppression. And that's defense, that's pitching. They're much better than the Braves. And if the offenses are about the same, to me, that's the biggest difference in this series.
Question time. We asked for some questions from social media. We got a couple. Glennon from Crystal City wants to ask the highest ranking German-American elected official in the state, How important is home field advantage in the playoffs?
I think it's important. You'd rather have that fifth game, that extra game at home than not. But this team has proven to be very good on the road. And I think the way you see those pitching matchups line up, you got game one, right? You got Michaelis has been pretty good on the road, especially in the second half.
In a short series, I think it matters less than a 7-game series.
It does. It does. And in this series, I think in particular, the Cardinals pitch. If you take the second half Cardinals, right?
Yes.
You take the second half Cardinals, and that's really who they are. They're not the same team they were in May. I like this team whether they're at home or on the road, but clearly you'd rather have home field advantage. But it didn't seem to bother the 2006 Cardinals, and to me, this team feels a little bit like those 2006 Cardinals.
I like that 6 because they got healthy all at once. And I think maybe this team may be coming around and with some similar health. I think 54% of the time you win when you're the home team. I think it matters. I think the last time we were in the playoffs, we had the home field advantage and it didn't work out. If you steal one of those first 2 games, then I think you really accelerate that series.
Absolutely, and let's throw this other factor out there. You're going to have, if it goes 5, you're going to have Jack Flaherty pitching 2 of those away games. So you have the best pitcher, in my view, on the planet right now, on the mound, 2 away games. So to me, that kind of neutralizes the home field advantage for the Braves.
Let's break down some predictions here. Let's talk about who do you have? The Tampa Bay Devil Rays are playing the Houston Astros. Who you got?
I think the Astros are the best team in the American League, and I think they win. Although if you're the Rays, you'd rather play them in 5 games rather than
Tommy
than
Pham
7.
beats them in 5.
Okay, all right. I'm going to go with the Astros.
I think the Yankees sweep Lance Lynn and the Twins.
Yeah, the Yankees, I think, make it to the next round.
And the Dodgers, they had to use Strasburg, and they had to use their ace. I don't know how with Scherzer and Strasburg not in. I don't know how that Washington beats the Dodgers.
Yeah, this is close to me. And as much as I'd like to see the Nationals win because we would get home field advantage, I do think the Dodgers probably win. But I think that's a long series, which sets up to me the NLCS, which could be a lot of fun.
I hope they pitch Kershaw in Game 1 against us.
Yeah, I mean, Kershaw, we're one of the few teams that's ever had his number.
If Niedenfuer can't go, then I say they pitch Kershaw against us.
That's right.
Let's talk finally about the one everyone cares about. I went and rubbed General Sherman's grave today before the broadcast for good luck. He burned Atlanta. I think we're going to burn through Atlanta in 4 games. I think we win games 1, 2, and 4, and the Cardinals move forward.
By the way, historical fun fact, General Sherman is buried at Calvary Cemetery in St. Louis. And also a little fun fact I'll point out, too, that Mike Schildt is the first manager in nearly 100 years to be a non-professional baseball player and get his team in the postseason. The last guy to do it, his first name was Pants. That was his nickname, I guess, back 100 years ago. So I'm taking the Cardinals in 5. And I'd like for it to be 4, but I do think it's the Cardinals in 5. But
we win both the Flaherty starts?
Yeah, and I think that's the difference.
The difference. Well, I hope that we're back here next week talking about an NLCS preview. Maybe we can get some old footage at Jack Clark's home or something like that. Either way, it's been so great to do this show. So great the Cardinals are back in the playoffs.
It's good to be back.
Thank you guys so much for watching. We will be back next week here on This Week in Missouri Politics.
This Week in Missouri Politics, sponsored by the Missouri Association of Career Fire Protection Districts, Spire, and Sterling Bank.